You know, the narcissist is more twisted and delusional than you even think they are. Trust me. Today I'm going to explain one of the major reasons why this is the case. I'm dead serious, guys. You, none of us can adequately understand just how fried and cooked and messed up in the head and in the heart that they really are. Because I get how absolutely cruel they are, and they do the cruelest, most cutting things. They do plot and scheme evil things. They do this stuff. But I'm telling you, there is a part of them that is so burnt and just fried that they do things almost on autopilot at times, a lot of times. But one of the major reasons why I can tell you exactly why they're so delusional, they're so screwed up. Think about this one. Because no matter how many times I've thought about this, it just gets worse and worse and worse every time I really do. Like, think more deeply about it. So, we know the narcissist runs on cycles. And this is one of those things that it does depend upon the narcissist as to what exactly their cycle is. Now, there's one element of it I think it's consistent. I say this and I stand behind it. A narcissist pattern of love bombing and pretending and faking and all that until you get to the place where the mask slips down and you start to see them for who they are. That is about 3 months. For some of them, maybe a little bit less. For some of them, maybe a little bit more, but you got a max of about 3 months of the really good or decent or seemingly good behavior until the shoe drops. They don't go farther than that. So, in fairness, you got to get out of here with that stuff of like, I didn't see it for 3 years. For 3 years, they faked it. I didn't see it. I didn't see a red flag for like over a year. That's not true. Because either you weren't dealing with a narcissist or you did see red flags but didn't perceive what they were or swept them under the rug. A genuine narcissist cannot keep it going more than about 3 months unless under just particular situations, maybe, such as distance between you. So that part is set in stone, but they all run on a different pattern I've seen as terms of how long their cycle of relationship or entanglement lasts. I have encountered narcissists, A, who will just tell you, well, my relationships are normally really short lived. They're really short lived. And they are. There are narcissists who will just deal with people just boom, 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 boom. And they're not even relationships. They're just talking stages or situations or something. Well, they'll build something up with you via text and phone calls and stuff for months and then just disappear. They're gone. But there are ones who can only last a very short time and they're on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. There are ones who their cycle or pattern is like 3 to 6 months usually. I'm not talking about love bomb. I'm talking about their whole cycle of the relationship. The love bomb and then devow and then discard and then possibly hoover or whatever. But 3 to 6 months, that's about as far as they get with anybody. And then at the end of that, they've got somebody else there to monkey branch and they do it again. And 3 to 6 months and they do it again. The one I dealt with, I would say, in fairness, it was usually probably, from what I found out, 6 to 9 months and occasionally upwards of a year. So about a year was the typical pattern, but plenty of times it was less than that, I think. I have seen narcissists who will marry. They're habitual marriers, and they've usually been married many times, but they might get married and they'll have that person for 5, 8, 10 years, All along that time, though, it's miserable. It sucks. They're doing their own thing. It's not a real relationship. It's many discards, and it's on and off and on and off and on and off. So it's not good. Don't get it twisted. It's not a good relationship. It's just that the whole situation lasts that long. They're the narcissistic marrying type, and then it's hell on earth within that marriage, but it lasts for years. The situation, the technical on paper marriage lasts for years, and then they'll marry again, and maybe that one's 5 years. Then they'll marry again, and maybe that one's like 12 years, and then they'll do that as long as they can until they can't really do it anymore. But here's the thing: no matter what their cycle is, this part of it remains true, and this part of it proves their sickness, their demented, twisted, warped mind. This proves it. I am convinced that even though part of them, and this is where it starts to get gray, so just bear with me. I believe in their schizophrenic type of delusional mind. Part of them understands that basically no relationship can ever work in principle. Like it's just not ever going to work. That's why you'll get them comments like I've heard. Most of my relationships are short-lived, or they'll say, "Well, I already know how this is going to go. We're going to date, and then it's not going to work, and then that." Like they're just telling you exactly what path it's on because they've been through it over and over and over and over and over and over. So it's like part of them knows I'm not fit to make this work. I'm not going to be able to make this work. I know that. But I kid you not, I promise you, there is another part of them in this warped, twisted version that I actually think does believe each and every time they meet that new shiny toy object, every new texting phase, dating, talking phase, relationship, marriage, whatever, they believe partly that that is the best thing, the new thing. It's going to work. This one will get me there. It will work this time with this person because they're so great. This is the person. Now this is the one. Not him and him and him and him, but this one. This okay. This is the one. And you might think to yourself, no, they don't ever think that. Let me tell you why I believe they think that. A person in their right mind, this is what I'm trying to prove, guys, again, how sick and delusional they are. A person in their right mind, even a little bit, would be able to look at their track record and would be able to say, gee, nothing ever works out and it always goes the same way. And it's me doing this and that. And they would figure out they're the common denominator. They would figure out there's things to change. They would figure out, most importantly, that this whole this whole project, plan, scheme thing never ever works. And again, I'm talking about somebody at least remotely in their right mind would be able to look back on their history and say, this and this and this and this and this and this, it never works. Here's what always seems to happen every time. Hmm. And yeah, you would introspect and you would change things and you would heal and you would do some work. But also, you would understand at least the fundamental reality that you try this same thing over and over every single time with many different people in many different situations. They have their own personalities. They bring forth different traits. They're physically different, mentally different, spiritually different. That It doesn't matter what person and dynamics I put into this situation, it never ever works. And what you would do if you had half a right mind was, yeah, you'd work on yourself, like I said, but you would at least acknowledge, I uh I probably shouldn't do this anymore. What's the point? If I know that every time I start something with somebody, it's going to end, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get tired of them, or I'm going to throw tantrums and destroy things, or I'm going to get bitter and resentful, or I'm going to, and it does this every single time, there's no point in doing this anymore. There is no point at all in even trying to get something going with a person anymore. Why would I do it? It ends the exact same way for the exact same reasons for me every single time. That's what a person in their right frame of mind would understand. Yes, again, bear with me. A person in their right frame of mind wouldn't have this happen over and over and over and over and over. But that's what I'm trying to tell you. The narcissist isn't in their right frame of mind. They don't think about things the same way you and I do. So when we say, oh, they plot and scheme and they're so intentional and they purposely do every single thing they ever do, you're thinking about it from your point of view. You're thinking about what a rational, logical person would have to do. And I'm speaking to somebody in particular. I don't even know who, and I know that sounds cliche to say it, but I know there are people who think this. Because I used to think this. They scheme everything. They just intentionally do every single thing they ever do. I have come finding out more and more as I go on that this is not true because that would involve them thinking about things the same way you and I do. Yes, from our perspective, we would look at their actions and we would say, you would have to just intentionally scheme. They knew from the beginning they were going to torture me. They knew from the beginning that this would never work for sure, and they did it anyway. They knew that this was triangulation. They knew. Some things they do know. Don't hear me saying that they don't plan anything because they do. And that is chiefly how they get into delusion. When you plot and scheme evil repeatedly, repetitiously, often and frequently enough, you gaslight yourself, you live in a false reality, you lie, you do all this stuff. You slowly slip into delusion. That's what happens. And so they intentionally did things to get themselves to this point. But as they go on, they are no longer operating with a full deck of cards. So when we look at it and we say, well, there's just they just planned every single thing. They knew every single little thing they were ever going to do to me. No, they didn't. They didn't. And I'm convinced they even do things on a whim that they didn't plan to do. They can triangulate people subconsciously. They lie like you and I breathe. That's a delusional person. But to the point I'm trying to get, the biggest point is the reason why you got to understand how sick and twisted they are, the person you're dealing with. Facts are irrelevant. Logic is out the window. They don't operate the way you and I operate. They don't think that way. And they don't feel that way because of their treachery, their evil, the situation they put themselves in. They just don't operate in reality. And a huge reason, a huge piece of evidence why that's the case is their cycle. Like I said, they know it never works. They know they always do these things. They know all of that. But each and every time they meet somebody new, some part of them says, this is going to work. It's going to work. They do think that. And the reason why you know that's the truth is because they keep doing it. No one, as I said, in their right mind would just keep doing something that fails every single time you ever do it. If you and I, it's a classic example, what if You or I go and we grab something hot off the kitchen table or off the stove, a hot pan. How many times do you have to grab that hot pan to figure out that it's hot? A person in their right mind, once, just one time. Or a million other things in life. A million other things that happen, and you only got to learn the lesson one time because you figured it out. Right? They don't work that way. They never figure anything out. They are like that person who goes over to the stove and sees that hot, flaming hot red pan, and they grab it and they go, "Chow!" And then they look right back down at the pan and they go, well, maybe this time. "Chow!" And then it's not enough. They look down at that pan over and over and over and over their whole lives, and the same thing happens, but they keep thinking it's going to be a different result. That's the narcissist. They think it's going to be different every time they grab that pan, and they don't figure it out. And the reason why you know they're delusional and they're warped is because they think it will be different. And the reason why we know that they think it will be different is because they keep doing it. They keep doing it. Imagine, guys, the perversion of the mind, the kind of place you have to be spiritually, mentally, to literally just walk yourself off a cliff over and over and over. If you didn't think the narcissist was delusional and warped and twisted, then understand they do the same thing, just like the definition they say of insanity. They do the same thing over and over and expect a different result every time. And you might think, no, they don't. They always know. They always know. No, they don't. Because a person in their right mind wouldn't do the same thing over and over and over and expect a different result. The narcissist does. And we know that because they keep doing it. It didn't work with Billy. It didn't work with Jimmy. It didn't work with Mark or Bob or Jim or John or Jake or Ryan or da 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 da. But it will work with Eric. It will work with the next person. It'll work with them. That's what the narcissist thinks. If you thought you were dealing with a person who functioned in reality, and this is why you can rest assured that they're not plotting and scheming and intentionally doing every single thing they do, because they they don't have the capacity to think the way that we do. To us, yes, you go through enough relationships, enough people, it doesn't work, it doesn't work, it doesn't work, blah, 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 blah. Then at some point, a rational person, probably long ago, realizes there's something real wrong with me. There's something real wrong with me because it just never works with anybody. And a rational person will say, I need to work on things, deduce from these situations what I need to change, fix me, and then I'll try it again. Or they do this enough times they realize I'm done. I'm out. This is just clearly is not it's just clearly not working. And I'll give you an example of that because I'm very much that way. I am just out. I'm just cashed out of the whole thing. Relationships and dating and all that. I'm just done. It's not out of bitterness. It's not out of hatred. Nothing of the sort. It's just that I have come to understand things in this day and age, in these last days, they're just too far gone to expect that you're going to get what you're supposed to get. Someone that you're adequately physically attracted to and adequately spiritually attracted to, who can behave, who can really get it right, who's in it for the long run. I've come to very logically understand that's not going to happen. So I'm out. That's an example of someone who has at least logically, rationally thought about it. Now, could I be wrong in my assessment of the world? Yes, I could be wrong. I don't think I am, otherwise I'd do things differently. But I logically, through experience, through study, research, trial and error, and discussions and everything else, I've come to conclude that's not in the cards, barring a miracle, because the state of things today. So logically, it makes sense that you just pull out, you don't worry about it, you're done. Live your life as though you will be single until Christ returns, or you're not here anymore, because that's probably the case. They don't do that. They can't do such a thing. They think to themselves, even though nothing ever changes, the next time will be different, the next person will be better, the next thing will work. It's not me, it's not me, it's not me, it's not me. This didn't work because of this. This didn't work because of this. It didn't work, but this one will. But this one will. This one will. And over, they're grabbing that hot pan. Welcome to the warped world of the narcissist. And guys, think about this as I mentioned before in closing. You don't think these people are that delusional? You're not dealing with a conscious, living, breathing, rational human being. That's not what you're dealing with in the narcissist. As sooner you understand that fully, the more that you're free and liberated from the whole thing. You weren't dealing with a real person. The devil is the chief narcissist. The devil is so delusional that he knows God created me. The Lord is the Most High. Jesus Christ is the Lord God of the cosmos and all creation, and he made me, and I'm below him, and I lost already trying to gain power. I was cast out of heaven, along with a third of the angels. I lost, but all that being said, I'm still going to get him. I'm still going to fight this fight to the end. I'm still going to get him. I might still get him. I'm going to continue this path, even though I know I can't beat him, but I think I can beat him. This is that dual-minded nature the Bible talks about. The narcissist is double-minded. They're not here. They're not there. And does that give them an excuse for the things they do? No, it doesn't. They put themselves in that situation by their evil conduct. But don't think that you're dealing with a person who looks at things the way we do. The biggest piece of evidence that the narcissist is so beyond delusional is that they will continue to enter relationships thinking somehow in some distant part of their minds, it'll work this time. It'll work. It'll work. But it didn't. But this will. But it didn't. And now this will. That's the height of delusion. All of the while thinking they should have better and better and better and better and better and better and better each time. So yeah, guys, the narcissist cycle proves all of this. They are more sick, twisted, delusional than you could ever imagine. So anyway, guys, drop comments below if you found this interesting. Come at you with another one soon. Until then, God bless.